Hey everybody, we're trying something new today. So if you're just joining us, we are attempting to go live today on both YouTube and Facebook at the same time. So I'm going to ask that you bear with us a little bit today as we get started because, you know, technology is tricky and we're trying something new. And I've got two little cameras to glance at, and I want to be hopping back and forth so I can make sure and get all your questions. So for a moment, I'm going to be kind of refreshing my page here and making sure that we are actually live and that the videos are going out there. So if you are watching, please feel free to drop a thumbs up or a comment on whatever platform you're watching from today. We'd always love to hear from you. So today, basically, it is September 9th, 2020, and I am Tamara from Moogly. And we're going live today so I can tell you about what's been happening lately on Moogly, but also so that you can ask me your questions. So today is a day where if you have craft questions, crochet questions, um, a little bit of knitting questions, maybe I can answer questions about Moogly or running a crochet business. This is just going to be some time for you guys to ask your questions. So hi, Carrie and Jocelyn and Monica. I'm so glad you guys have tuned in. And let's see, I'm going to come over here. I can see your comments over here on YouTube and your comments over here, hopefully on Facebook in a minute. Like I say, new technology, please bear with us as we figure all this out. There it is. Now I can see those comments, hopefully. If I click to expand. Yay! Hi, Caitlin and Rachel and everybody on Facebook. Now I can see your comments too. So yay, I'm so glad that worked. Awesome. So good morning, everybody. I hope you're doing well. I hope if you have kids in school this year, it's gotten off to a good start. We are homeschooling here at Moogly headquarters. We have a high schooler and a middle schooler, so that's been a new adventure and it's been a lot of fun. I know some of you guys are having some really terrible weather across the country. Right here, it's actually getting really chilly in Iowa, which is unexpected, but that's fun. So hi, Crystal from Manitoba, and Jennifer and Susan, hi. Thank you so much for tuning in. So like I said, today's going to be your chance to ask me some questions. But before we get to that, let's go ahead and talk about what's been happening lately on Moogly and elsewhere in the yarn world, because there's some fun stuff going on. One thing I think I'll go ahead and mention, I don't have any information on it at the link in the description. There's information on everything else. I don't have any information on this. But if you are looking for a crochet career, I have heard a rumor that Annie's magazine crochet exclamation point, crochet, that one. They are looking for a new editor. So if you are a crochet professional or know someone that you love that you think would be perfect for the job, hey, there's a lead for you. There are so many different ways to make a living in the craft industry. And that one happens to be open here now too. So, take a look if that's something that interests you. Let's see. And what else is happening in the world? The Caron Kickoff is happening. You may have caught I did a live on Facebook with Marley Bird and Mikey from the Crochet Crowd and Sarah from Repeat Crafter Me, and it was so much fun. And we got to talk about all the new Caron cakes that are coming out at Michael's. If you go to your local's Michael's, you can go inside and there should be an awesome display of all the new Caron cakes. It is Caron cake season again. And I know people love these Caron cakes. This is the first year I've gotten to play with any of them, and they are so much fun. I really do enjoy using them, and I get it now. I totally get why you guys have been so crazy for these all along. So that's going on. That's really fun. Don't forget, though, if you are like me, if you are still isolating for your family and your own safety, Michael's has curbside pickup. So don't be afraid. You don't have to go inside the Michael's if that isn't something you're comfortable with. I've been doing mine curbside pickup. Got a whole great big bag of these stuck in the back of my van right at the curb. It was awesome. So check that out. Tomorrow, I will actually be teaching a live class for Michael's for the Caron Kickoff. What's interesting is we won't be teaching, it'll be me, I'll be teaching some classes, Marley's teaching some classes, Mikey's teaching some classes, and even Sarah's teaching a class through Michael's. But what's interesting on these classes is we won't be teaching the pattern itself, although I think if you have questions, we can probably try and answer those in that session too. We're going to be teaching you how to put icing and embellishments on top of those patterns. So again, go to the link in the description. I've got links to all the classes I'm teaching, as well as the classes you can explore on the Michael's page and check out everybody else's classes too. Michael's does not only awesome crochet and knitting classes, but they have all sorts of craft classes. And 99.9% of them, as far as I know, are completely free. You just go onto their site and register. So it's really awesome. So do check that out if you haven't yet already. So yeah, just kind of glancing back and forth, make sure I don't have any big questions popping up first thing. So that's going on right now. There are 150 plus free patterns for Caron cakes. I know that when there's a new yarn, you want yarn support, right? You want something to make with it. You need ideas. So even though that most of those Caron cakes are only available at the Michaels store, you can still go onto yarnspirations.com and get a ton, like I say, over 150 free patterns for those yarns. So I have linked that at the link in the description to you. So if you're having trouble finding those patterns and you want some more inspiration, I've got a link for that right there. Yes, and those anniversary cakes. I just saw Stephanie mentioned those on YouTube. Those anniversary cakes are massive. I don't have one of the final ones. I just have one that's like got a pre-production label on it. But it's huge. It's a massive, massive amount of yarn. And I can only imagine what amazing like blankets and things you can make with literally 2 ends to weave in if you do it right at the end. So that's very exciting. So be sure to check those out. Other things happening on Moogly. There is the Soft Sunshine Chair Pad tutorial finally went up. There was a little bit of delay there with the derecho last month that came through Iowa on our videos. So we're all caught up, I think, on videos right now. So that is out. The Calming Breezy Throw, which I have right here. This blanket is so light and fluffy, you guys. This is made with, let me pull it up here, Bernat Blanket Breezy, which I have a different colorway of right here than what I used for the blanket. And then here's the one I did use for the blanket. And aren't they pretty? There's just 2 samples of all the different colorways, of course. There's a bunch of different colorways of this yarn. And it's another cake yarn. So it's not a Caron cake, but it is a cake, and it is really pretty. And this is the blanket I made with it, the Calming Breezy Throw. So I'll hold it up here. And this blanket, like I said, it's really fuzzy. In order to get the pattern to show up, you have to use the negative space with this yarn, or you can just have fun with the striping effect. It's a lot of fun, though, and it's a free pattern now on yarnspirations.com. I have a link to it on my blog, and of course, it's linked in the link for this post. But what's fun about that is when I design a pattern for Yarn Inspirations, I make the video tutorials like I usually do for my patterns now. I didn't used to always, so the older stuff doesn't always have videos, and I get requests for those once in a while, and I make them when I can, but the new stuff does. And so the right-handed video goes on to Yarn Inspirations as part of my deal with them, but the left-handed version is still on my site. So I still always try and get those up when I can, when they're useful for you guys. So if you go to the link in the description, you'll see there's a link out to your inspirations for the pattern. There's a link out to your inspirations for the right-handed video, but the left-handed video, it does still sit on Moogly and on the Moogly YouTube channel. So you can definitely check that out as well. Let's see what else. There is giveaways, of course, happening on Moogly all the time. There is the Rose Gold Craft Destiny hook set giveaway. And this was a hook set that I had. And sometimes when I do giveaways, companies will send me a few of the items so I can do different photographs and things, but then they'll send it out for the prize winner. But then I've got all these extras. And don't get me wrong, I need multiples of different hook sizes, but I have a few extras. So one of the extra sets I had was this rose gold set, and it was kind of hard to give away because it is so pretty. But you can see, hopefully, this shiny, shiny rose gold. You can see yourselves maybe back in that reflection. I feel a little bit like Miss Peggy from Romper Room, showing my age there. Anybody else remember Romper Room? Look into the magic mirror. You can see yourself. It's so shiny. But inside, you can see it's got everything you need to get started crocheting. It's got all your hooks, all your basic hook sizes, not the super jumbo ones, but all the basic ones. I'll put that card down there. And then this little pouch has your measuring tape and needles and stitch markers. And then I'm doing this literally staring into the monitor. Sorry. It's like working into a mirror. There we go. This is the yarn snippers. So it's got scissors built right in too. So this kit comes with all of that, and that is a worldwide giveaway. Since I'm shipping it out myself, I can ship it anywhere in the world, except of course where giveaways are prohibited. So if you live in one of those spots, I'm sorry, I can't change the law, but that's what's happening there. And it is so pretty, isn't it, Sissy? Thank you. I love it. Okay. So then what else? There is the Moogly Crochet Along 2020 Block 18. And this one has definitely been a hit. I have to thank Marley Bird for designing this. She does so many beautiful things with Mosaic crochet, you guys. And I am so excited she brought it into this block. Check that out. Isn't that pretty? Isn't that gorgeous? That is, it's made with Red Heart with Love, just like all the Crochet Along squares. It's Mosaic crochet there right through the center. I just want to make sure everybody can see it there on both cameras. Ooh, there we go. Okay. And yeah, absolutely stunner. The thing I love about Mosaic crochet is that it is genuinely so much easier than it looks. Like this looks like it would be really, really complicated, right? Let me hold that up again. This looks like, oh my gosh, this must use some special stitches or something like that. Nope, nope, just double crochets worked into some over some chain spaces. You'll see it in the pattern, but it really is. It's so much simpler than it looks, and it's so brilliant. And I love this technique because if you think about it, and it might break my brain a little bit, but you could really, I think you could draw just about anything, any design. It doesn't have to be geometric. You could just take off drawing anything you want across crochet, a field of crochet with this technique. So I think there's going to be some interesting things to come. Right now, everybody's kind of sticking with these geometric designs, but I think there's a lot of possibilities for this technique. So I'm excited to see what happens with it with crochet. Now, I did see a couple questions pop up. I'll try and answer them. One, somebody asked, I think they were trying to ask, where does Moogly come from? So we'll go ahead and take a quick break here and answer that question. So Moogly, of course, is my site, but if you're looking for the name of the story itself, basically it was a word my daughter came up with when she was about 2 or 3 years old, maybe even a little younger. And, you know, little kids that age are always clambering and climbing over things. And I think I remember it was like one of those parking blocks, you know, when you're parking in a parking lot and there's that block there so you don't go too far. And it was a wobbly one. It was wiggly. And she was teetering and toddling along it. And all of a sudden she goes, "Ooh, it's so moogly." We were like, well, that's funny. That's a funny word. Where'd she come up with this? And she kept using it for any time anything was really wobbly. And so when I started designing and crocheting and blogging and all that stuff, I didn't know what I was doing. I was a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids, you know, just trying to figure out how to keep my family going and everything. And so Moogly seemed really appropriate. So that's how we ended up with that name. So that's the story of Moogly in a nutshell. The other question I did see pop up was, does the Caron anniversary cake come in solids? And I haven't seen it in solids yet. Unfortunately, I've only seen it in the stripes right now. But these are nice, big, chunky stripes. So, yeah, give it a try. I haven't, like I say, I haven't seen it in stripes. I don't go into the store. I do the curbside pickup, so I'm kind of stuck with browsing what is available online. I think if you go into the store, you'll probably see some more. But as far as I know, that one is just in the stripes or the multicolor version. So I just want to scroll up and make sure I didn't miss any other questions here that I can answer. Doesn't look like that. Oh, yay, people remember Romp Room. I loved that show so much. It was so exciting. You know, Tamara had a weird little peak of popularity as a name in the 70s for a very, very short period of time. Every time I meet another Tamara, we're usually within 2 or 3 years of each other in age. And so hearing my name on there, I would settle for Tammy. But I tell you what, that was a pretty exciting day to get my name heard on Romper Room. So I'm just going to pop over here to YouTube so I can check for comments here as well. So let's see. Oh, how do you wish some people? Yeah, I hear ya. Some people are wishing that some of the caked yarns had less abrupt color changes, and that is cool. Sometimes you can get that in an ombre yarn or a gradient yarn, but those are a little harder to find. I don't know, honestly, how to manufacture yarn. I mean, I think I've seen the videos, you know, sort of the, oh, what am I thinking of? The Mr. Rogers style, you know, like this is how yarn is made, you know, those videos of how yarn is made. But honestly, I don't have a great idea of how like large scale dyeing goes. I've done little dyeing myself, you know, in a pot, the kind you can do at home, but large scale, like factory level, Red Heart with Love, Caron anniversary cakes, that level. Yarn manufacturing, I have no idea how difficult it would be to set up all those different colorways and make them gradients and things. Yeah, I think it would be interesting. I hope someday when we can travel again, my hope is to be able to go to some of these yarn factories and things, maybe even around the world, at least around the country, and get an inside peek at how those things are made. Can't share, of course, you know, the trade secrets and all that stuff, but how fun would it be to get, you know, an inside look on those factories and just really get a better idea of how that yarn is made. Let's see. So hi, everybody. Hi, Crystal and Stephanie and Carrie. Thank you. Making a border for a blanket, or let me try this again. Carrie asks, I am making a blanket for a boy using blanket yarn. What border would you recommend? You know, that's a great question because so much of crochet can look really feminine. And you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes you want something a little more masculine for a finish. And I'm, of course, a big fan of really simple edgings. I really like clean lines in my decor and also sometimes in my crochet. But I have a triangle edging that's really fun if you want something. It's sort of like a scallop edging, but pointier, so it comes off more as triangles, more of kind of a sawtooth edge if that's what you're looking for. Other edgings that would be fun. You could, of course, do something really simple, like a moss stitch edging is fun. Um, if you like doing lots of different edgings, I always recommend Edie Eckman's Crochet Borders books. She's got, oh my gosh, more than I could even imagine in terms of edgings and borders you can do. And of course, that's a great way to customize your piece as well. But for me, one of my personal favorites is just to add a simple round of the twisted single crochet or even twisted double crochet if you want a little bit thicker border. I like to work a simple round of single crochet first, just to sort of firm up that edge and get a nice edge to work that further decorative edge into. But I think that that twisted single crochet or twisted double crochet really adds a nice finished edge that isn't overly masculine or feminine. I think it's really unisex, but it's a little more interesting than just sort of that flat border. So I don't know, just my opinions, but that's the fun of borders and edgings. You can definitely always make it your own and customize it for yourself, whatever you like. So let's see. Oh, yeah, it's cold elsewhere too. I've heard Colorado is expecting like snow this week. That blows my mind. Let's see. Yes, everybody's excited about the Caron cakes. That's awesome. Carrie, I think I got your question answered, hopefully anyway. Let's see. Yay, romper room. Okay. All right, let's see. I have a question. Have you crocheted a project with 10 ply thread? Um, let's see. The 10 ply thread. I'm guessing you mean the size 10 thread, like crochet thread. That is a size 10. 10 ply gets confusing because there's different definitions of ply in UK versus US. So, size 10 thread. I want to say I've done a bun cover, a ballet bun cover in size 10 thread. It might have been in size 3, which confusingly is smaller. When you look at the threads, the bigger the number, the smaller the thread. So it's kind of like Fahrenheit, where you go into the negative numbers and when they start getting bigger, it starts getting colder. With yarn, it's kind of similar. You go down into, thinner and thinner stuff, the bigger the number once you get into threads. I'm trying to think. Size 10 thread is typically a little bit thinner. It's popular for fashion stuff, and it's popular for bags and things like that. I don't have a whole lot of patterns with it. I've done a couple. I would really recommend, honestly, just going to yarninspirations.com. They actually have a pretty good pattern sorting feature if you take your time with it and poke around. And I'm sure they have dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of patterns for Aunt Lydia's size 10 thread. That's the one I'd look it up under, Aunt Lydia's crochet thread, size 10 for that. But yeah, I'm just trying to think. You just don't see as many, I think, thread patterns in this climate. I think thread work tends to be more popular, not just among doily makers, but also where it tends to be warmer and people have a little bit lighter and more delicate weight clothing. Places where you wouldn't want something big and bulky like this big old sweater I'm wearing right now, the Cosmos cardigan. This is great in Iowa right now. It's super chilly today, but I think that, the thread stuff tends to be a little bit cooler weather. So yeah, you're going to find probably more patterns for that online. I'm sorry. So let's see. Somebody said the crab stitch is a nice edging. Yes. And that's what's funny. That twisted single crochet I recommend. It'll give you the look of that crab stitch, but I think it's a little bit easier. So if you love doing the crab stitch, that's a great way to go to. Absolutely. Let's see. I think I saw one. Yes. Monica Mercado asks, how do you protect yourself from overuse injuries in your hands, wrists, and elbows? I would recommend that, honestly, rest and taking breaks is important. And I know that's really hard, especially if you're like me, crocheting all the time, you're not on the computer. My elbows do tend to hurt sometimes at the end of the day. I understand totally. But rest, of course, stretching is really important. Just lots of stretches for your hands. Be sure to stretch your hands, your elbows, your arms. Another technique while you're crocheting is I find it's really helpful to put a couple of pillows on each side of you, one under each elbow, and that'll actually help support the elbows a little bit and let you relax those shoulders down and relax your arms down, relax those elbows down into those pillows. And that just helps some of the muscles that don't need to be tense to do the crocheting to relax and get a little bit of a break. So that might help a little bit as well. The other thing you can try is thicker handles on your crochet hooks. If you're using the really thin, I don't have any next to me, but the really thin aluminum kind, you might be gripping it a little bit tighter, which is of course going to translate into tension all the way down the arm. So a thicker hook, whether that's actually getting a different hook or just adding like a pencil gripper onto a hook you've got, wrapping a little bit of tape or cloth around it to give it a try and see if that helps. That's another thing you can try for that too. So hopefully that helps. Kim says, I crocheted a hot pack and set it right on top of my hand or wrist for a little while. Yes, and absolutely, like any injury, heat, cold, whatever helps. I'm lucky enough to actually have a hot tub in the backyard, so once in a while I'll jump in that too. Let's see. So have I ever crocheted a sweater before? Is it hard? I have. I'm wearing one. It doesn't have to be. There are crochet sweaters out there that are really complicated, and there are crochet sweaters out there that are hardly more complicated than making a blanket, maybe a little bit, of course, more than one piece, but it really depends on the design. And you'll want to look for something, if you haven't crocheted a sweater before, definitely look for something rated beginner or easy. I find that the oversized garments are a lot simpler and easier because they don't have a lot of that shaping and fitting. This Cosmos cardigan I'm wearing right now, I think would make an excellent first sweater if you haven't made one before. It really is very simple. It has minimal shaping, but makes a very wearable, cozy sweater that I think is going to be awesome at home this winter. So yeah, it took me a while to dive into sweaters, I'm not going to lie, and into adult garments. Making little sweaters and things for babies is a lot easier. They don't care if they look a little chunky or if it makes their booty look big, right? I mean, babies are going to be happy in whatever you put them as long as it's soft. So it took me a little bit to have the courage to jump into adult garments, but with, studying and looking around what was out there and looking at other patterns and making a few other patterns before I did design my own, it doesn't have to be complicated. It really can be quite simple. I would say just start simple, start where you're comfortable, and build your skills from there like any other project. So let's see. Thank you so much, Carrie. I'm so glad you like the sweater. So I'm going to hop back over to Facebook. I saw a couple things fly by here I didn't want to miss. So let's see. Barbie clothes. Yes, Barbie clothes with thread. I forgot all about that. My daughter's 18, almost 19 now. It's been so long since I've made Barbie clothes. I forgot all about them. That is another great thing. So that's awesome. Oh, and thank you, Tara, about your kind words about the Rainbow Market bag. I'm so glad you enjoy that pattern. Let's see. Let's jump on down here to the bottom. So yay. Okay. And free vintage crochet pattern has lots of patterns for old thread work too. Yeah, I bet. So many more vintage patterns using the thread. I can only imagine, I think looking back at the history of crochet, it has been mostly thread. So obviously there are lots and lots and lots of older patterns out there. Personally, I'm super glad with the advent of worsted and jumbo yarns. I love using the thick yarns too. But of course, there are beautiful items you can make with thread and so many gorgeous vintage patterns waiting to be remade. All right, so I'm going to take a little sip of the coffee there. The, let's see, yep, doilies and everything. Let's see, thank you. Oh, and it gets cold. Yeah, it's definitely going to be getting cold in some places soon from what I'm hearing. So, okay, the new moon wrap, that is the latest pattern on mooglyblog.com. I'll go ahead and hold that up here. Got it all sort of folded up for you. And of course, I was making this in super hot weather and it's like 50 degrees, but hey, what the heck? Here we are. Here is the new moon wrap. And this is made in Red Heart Croquette. And this is that piece I was on, I think last time I went live and gave you guys a little bit of a sneak peek, or I guess that was 2 times ago now that I think about it. And yeah, I really love the way this turned out. It is so soft, and I don't know if the sparkles will show up on camera at all. It's so hard to get the sparkles to show up on camera. They're a lot easier to see in person. But what I really love about this wrap is not just the lace pattern, but I added just a little bit of beading right along the edges. I'm going to try and hold this up here. Hopefully you can see. Oop, let's see. There we go. Can you see the beading? Try and get it on both cameras there. Right along the edge. And it's just that little extra touch. It's totally optional. You don't have to add the beads at all. If you don't want to, you can just make it with the yarn and the hook. But I that little extra flash. And I actually really like too the way it kind of sounds and in a weird way. And it doesn't really add any weight, but somehow it always makes a shawl feel a little bit more secure too. And like I said, this is made using Red Heart Croquette, and I did end up using 4 cakes of it. Thought I was going to get away with 3 when I was in the middle of making it, but I ended up using a 4th one. So here is Red Heart Croquette. If you haven't checked this one out before, you can look for it at your local yarn shop, you know, your big box yarn store, Michael's, Joann's, whatever's near you. But also if you don't find it there, it is available on YarnSpirations.com. And these little guys, this looks like a tiny little thing, right? I mean, it is. It fits basically in the palm of my hand. But each one of these little cakes has 239 yards. So don't be afraid of this. I also have a pattern coming out with this, if not this month, then next month, hopefully this month, on Yarnspirations, another fun pattern using Croquette. So I really enjoyed using this yarn. And I love the way it feels. I love that it's sparkly and can look really elegant and formal, or you can have some fun with it. There's some bright colors too. Trying to think, where are they? They're way over there. So there's some really bright colors and exciting colors, some pastel colors. So you can do really elegant, you know, or fun or whatever you like. But it's cotton. This yarn is 92% cotton, and that's off the top of my head. Might be slightly different. 92. Woo, go me. 92% cotton. So, and then it's 5% polyester and 3% other fiber, which I think is the sparkle. And I saw somebody ask what weight is it. It is a 1. It is a fingering weight or a super fine yarn. But I used a G hook with it, so you don't have to be scared. I'm not asking you to pull out a tiny little thread hook until it's time to apply the beads, but only for applying the beads. The beads don't have to be pre-strung. We only use that little thread hook for applying the beads. But otherwise, it's a G hook. So a G hook and fingering yarn, I think, creates really, really beautiful open lace. And I think it could be a good combination. I never feel like I have to stick to the size of the hook recommended on the package. It's a good jumping off point. It lets me know what they have in mind for a nice solid fabric. But if you're doing something like lace or something drapey, don't be afraid to mix it up. Try a different hook size. You might find you love it. You might find this is your new favorite yarn, your new favorite yarn and hook combo. It might be just what you were looking for. So it feels really soft. It feels really good against the skin. It doesn't have any of that itchiness. I know sometimes with these yarns that have the metallic thread in them, you can feel that. You know what I'm talking about? You can kind of, you might not feel it in your hands when you're working with it, but then you put on that scarf and you're like, ooh, I can feel that little line. With this, I have never been able to feel a single scratch from this metallic stuff. I've rubbed it on my neck. I've worn it in a few different garments now. No issues whatsoever. So I really, really enjoy that. So do check that out. And there will be a video tutorial for that, right and left-handed, on YouTube on Friday. So, whew, that's coming. Being in process right now, being edited. Just finished videotaping it yesterday. So, okay, other things happening on Moogly. There is the Clover giveaway. I think I showed, oh, and somebody had a quick question on the new moon shawl. Yes, in the video tutorial, I do include how to add the beads. I do have a separate tutorial for that as well. If you just want to add the beads, if you're not interested in that pattern, but you want to know how to add beads with a crochet hook, that tutorial is already up on Moogly blog, YouTube right now and on the site. But I've included it in this new tutorial coming out Friday as well. So that will be happening. But like I say, there's the Clover one, the Clover Snag Repair Needle Review and Giveaway just started on Monday. And that's a very cool one. It's another one of those things that's kind of too small for me to show on camera right now. But these are basically needles, for lack of a better term. They're sharp on one end and dull on the other. But the dull end, instead of having an eye or a hole that you'd normally expect to find in a needle, actually has sort of a rough texture to it. And when you send it through a snag in your fabric, whether it's crocheted or knit or a t-shirt or a beautiful sweater you bought, you know, with something far too fine for you to actually handmade, you know, I'm talking about that really fine fabric. They have a couple of different size needles, so you can send it right through where that snag is. And as you do, and you want to do it from the outside to the end, the textured part sort of grabs that snag and pulls it back onto the inside of the fabric. Totally gone, totally disappears. This thing will save your projects. It could save some of your favorite garments, you know. I know that feeling. There's nothing worse. There's so many things in life, right? I'm wearing this crocheted sweater. I'm next to this microphone with all these spiky bits. It could get me at any time. So with chunkier yarns, of course, you can use your hook and fix those. But with the really fine stuff, you know, it can feel really hopeless and really frustrating when that happens. So these snag repair needles are awesome. So that giveaway is happening right now on Moogly too. Another giveaway happening on Moogly is a yarn giveaway. The Bernat Maker Home Deck giveaway happening right now. I believe off the top of my head, it is for 4 balls of this yarn. And there are 317 yards per ball. So this is a really fun one. And this is a really unique yarn too. If you haven't checked out my yarn reviews or any of my other patterns and stuff with this yarn, do check it out. It's a tubular yarn, so it has a really unique squishy feel. And I really, really love it. So that's what's happening there. Then the other giveaway that is currently on is the slice review and giveaway. So if you're looking for some new crafting scissors and tools, definitely check that out. And then the other thing, a little sneak peek. Ta-da! Every year, of course, you know, I have the Moogly crochet along, which lasts all year long, and it has 24 different designers and 24 different squares that we all put together in an Afghan when we're all done. But in the fall, for the last few years, I've also tried to do a yearly mini crochet along, which is just for a month long, and we might make one project or just a few projects. Let's see, 2 years ago, it was the Autumn Amore set, which is a hat, a scarf, and a set of fingerless mitts, all made in Red Heart Amore, and all completely unisex, all using the mott stitch. I believe all of them have different sizes, or at least different sizing info. So really it's kind of a set for the whole family that you could make for the holidays, for gifting, for yourself, whatever you like. Now, then last year I did the Ripley shawl, and that each one of those had video tutorials, just like all the other things in the Amore set. And the Ripley shawl, you might recall, used Red Heart. What was it? The Red Heart. It's a Wrap. That's it. It's right up there. I had to go look at it. The It's a Wrap. The rainbow. That's it. The It's a Wrap rainbow. Brain not working for me today. And so that's a really delicate thread-like yarn. Very, very thin, very pretty. Made a really gorgeous shawl. And so that's what we made last year. So this year I'm working on a new project. It's going to be a shawl type of item again. That's all I can tell you right now, other than the yarn we're using. And it's not quite done yet, so I can't tell you exactly how much, but it should be 3 skeins or less of yarn, but in 2 different colors. You'll want 2 of one color and 1 of the other, fingers crossed. And I'll be using Red Heart Hygge Charm for this one. So this is Red Heart Hygge Charm. If you haven't seen it before, this is another sparkly one that does, it really does. It feels so good. In fact, that's what this sweater that I'm wearing right now is made out of, now that I realize. I am wearing a sweater made out of Red Heart Hygge Charm, and it is super soft. This is, again, another one. You cannot feel any scratchiness from that sparkle at all. So I'm going to try and hold it up to each camera here. Here's YouTube, and there's Facebook. So you can see a little bit, hopefully, of that sparkle built right into that yarn. I'm going to be using white and gray, but of course you can use whichever colors you want. So if you want to go ahead and get that, that will be the October crochet along on Moogly. It'll be a free pattern in a few different parts. I'm trying to, again, as I finish it up, we'll see how it breaks up, whether it's going to be 3 or 4 parts. But just something fun to make together in October. There won't be any rules. You don't have to sign up anywhere. You don't have to finish it on time. You don't have to send in your photo if you don't want to. It's just something fun we can all do together in October. Just kind of gear up for the holidays before all the craziness of gift making and all that fun starts. So that will be coming in October. Oh, and the other thing I brought over, what the heck, we'll just pull them out here since I brought them over. These are some of my favorite beads to use for demonstrating, or well, I shouldn't say for demonstrating, not for demonstrating, but these are some of my favorite beads for using for actually crocheting with beads. And I don't know if I can even get them to show up. Might be easier just to hold them up in the container. Let's see. And these are little guys. I'm kind of trying to hold them up to each camera here so you can see. These are 6/0. I'm going to write it down because I think beading sizes, this is something I'm still learning about too. But this 6/0 like that is the size that I really like to use for actually beading on projects. And that's the size I've used on almost all my projects, all my crochet projects that have beading. And these particular beads came from Bead Biz, but of course you can buy beads at most major craft stores. Besides 6/0, they're also known as 4mm. And like I say, I really like this size. It works really well with, I would say probably up to a 2 or 3 weight yarn at the most though. Anything bigger than that gets a little bit trickier. You need a bigger bead. And why is that? The yarn has to fit through it. Not only does the yarn need to fit through it, but you need to be able to get a needle or a hook or something through that bead as well to get the yarn through the bead. So tomorrow I'm going to be teaching my first Caron Kickoff class, and that's going to be about surface crochet. So again, go to the link in the description if you want to get signed up for that. That'll be free. That'll be tomorrow at noon. That's noon Central Time, I should say, noon Central. But on September 17th, I will be teaching another class about how to add beading. And this is just adding beading as an edging, as an afterthought, almost that icing on the cake, basically. And I'm going to show a couple different ways to do it, and also how to add an edging without beading if you're not into beading. So that will be on September 17th at noon through Michael's. Again, information at the link in the description. But for demoing that one, I'm going to be using pony beads. And I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about this because this is something I discovered just in the last week or so myself. Pony beads you might be familiar with from your own childhood if you've got kids. They're the big, heavy, thick plastic beads. I don't have any, near me for any reason, but of course that would be convenient. But they're big, chunkier. What you think of more as like crafting beads. They're the things you would hand, not like tiny children. They're too small for little guys. You would want ages 3 and up, so they don't want to put them in their mouth, but they're small enough, perfect size to get stuck up a kid's nose. We'll put it that way. So I will be demoing that tomorrow with those size beads. And I chose that because they're easier to see on camera. So it's a little easier to see a demo with a pony bead. We just don't have to get that super close up. And it fits with the chunkier yarn. It fits on a 5-weight yarn. This is a bulky weight yarn that I'll be demoing with, I believe, tomorrow. But what really got me, what really surprised me is that my preconceived notion of what pony beads were going to look like on this project was blown out of the water. Like I say, my conception of pony beads was colorful plastic. And I think these are still plastic, but there are some really pretty pony beads out there. We got some from Michael's that were crystal, some that were silver, kind of a bright silver color. And honestly, you put them on the project and they look fantastic. Yes, they're big and bold. There's no subtlety about a pony bead on there. But I tell you what, I really think it looks pretty nifty. So I'm going to say, don't be afraid to add beads on your chunkier projects with the chunkier yarn. Go ahead and explore those pony beads. Try out a few. They're very inexpensive, so you're not at a big risk if it turns out you don't like it. You can always pass it on down to the kids or grandkids to play with. But I was really surprised at how much I really, really enjoyed the way it ended up looking on that finished shawl. So I hope you'll check that out with me too. Other things I'm doing this month, like I say, I've got the class on September 10th, another one on September 17th, both through Michael's. On the 19th, I'll be doing a fireside chat with Marley. I don't know where it's going to be. I don't know what time it's going to be. I think it's going to be around 6 p.m. Central on the 19th, but I will be having more details on that as soon as I have them. On the 24th, I will be doing the Lunch and Learn with Yarnspirations. If you guys haven't checked those out before, Yarnspirations likes to do a lot of free lunch and learns on their Facebook page. So that's a lot of fun. And I will be doing that one on the 24th. And then on the 26th, I will have my third Caron Kickoff class. That will be adding pockets. Pockets, pockets, pockets. Everybody loves pockets, right? I mean, what's the first thing? If you meet somebody, you compliment them on their dress. If it has pockets, that's the next thing they're going to tell you about, right? Everybody loves pockets. Pocket shawls are big right now. Pocket scarves, pockets on your sweaters. And you can always add a pocket. You just need a little bit more yarn. So we're going to be going over how to add pockets. And what's fun is adding pockets is a really, really pretty simple concept. I don't think it's going to take us a full hour. But that pattern that we're adding the pockets to, and you'll see it if you go sign up for the class on Michael's, the chunky short row crochet scarf on Yarnspirations, it is such a fun pattern. It is crochet short rows. So I'm hoping we have enough time to go over the actual stitch pattern for that as well. And I think we will, because that's what I used to make the pockets. And you'll see all that in the class when it goes, on September 26th. But I really, really enjoyed that stitch pattern and how it came together. So fingers crossed there'll be some time to demo that as well. So yeah, that's, I think, I'm just kind of paging through my notes here. And then of course I will be going live here on YouTube and Facebook again at the end of the month, just for us, just to chat and see what's going on. And maybe I'll have an official topic then as well. But let's see, I'm going to go ahead and peek through and see if we have any other questions. And if you do have questions, go ahead and post them wherever you are. So yay, I'm so glad you guys are liking it. Yeah, and for the Caron Kickoff, seriously, that's all you have to do is use a Caron cake yarn in your project. You don't have to use any of the patterns that are recommended, although of course there's a slew of new free patterns to check out as well, and that's always fun. But like I said, I'm gonna have a whole post up about it tomorrow before I go live on Michael's that will have some supplemental information for those classes as well. But can I just tell you the prizes for the Caron Cake-Off this year are, I'll admit I used the word obscene. It's crazy. The grand prize winner is going to get 500, 500 cakes of Caron cake yarn. That is a lot of yarn. That is so much yarn. That's like a pallet of yarn. That's an insane amount of yarn. So prepare yourself. Make sure this is something you actually want to win if you're entering this contest. In addition to the 500 cakes of yarn, the grand prize winner will also get I believe it's an hour-long virtual meet and greet. It says with their favorite influencer, but I'm afraid it has to be me, Marley, Mikey, or Sarah. So if your favorite influencer is Martha Stewart or Rachel Ray, you might be out of luck on that one. But um, I keep thinking, we're going to just basically need to do an hour-long consult of where to put all that yarn. In addition to the grand prize winner, though, there will be 4 finalists, I believe they're called, and they are each going to win 50 cakes of yarn. So still a crazy amount of yarn, 50 cakes of yarn. I genuinely do not even have storage myself, 50 cakes of yarn. So I think that's going to be awesome, and I'm very excited to see all the projects. People are already submitting them. Just go ahead and, come up with whatever you want. It doesn't have to be an original item, but if you want to do an original item, it's a great chance to show some of that off too. I do have a question from Pam who says, missed the event, how do I get caught up? If you want to go to the link in the description, as soon as this video is over, I'm going to go ahead and embed at least one of them. I don't know if it'll be the Facebook or the YouTube, but we'll go ahead and embed that in the blog post as well. So we're still live right now, so it's not over. You can't rewind, but when it's over, it'll be up here published, so you can definitely rewind at that point. So let me hop over to YouTube again and check for questions. I see I have a couple here. Let's see. Let me just, oop, they're coming in so fast. Let me scroll up a little bit so I can make sure not to miss any. Okay, anti-macassars should come back into style. Oh yes, that would be a lot of fun. Those were kind of like, if I recall correctly, and I'm probably grossly mispronouncing that word, anti-macassar? Yeah, I'm sure that's wrong. Basically, I think those were the doilies people used to put on their chairs to protect the head of their chair from the hair oils and creams that were so popular back in the day. So let's see. Yay, I'm so glad you're excited about the new moon wrap. Thank you, Rumsa family. Thank you. And yay, beads. They're so much fun. Thank you, guys. Let's see. Oh, I'm so glad, Jill, that you enjoy the sweater patterns. Thank you. And let's see how to do the beads. Like I say, there's already a video tutorial for that up on my YouTube and on Moogly, if you don't want to wait for Friday for the new moon wrap tutorial itself. So that's happening there. Thank you so much, you guys. I have a bunch of giveaways going on right now. I see Crystal, you just tuned in. Yeah, there's a bunch of giveaways going on. If you go to the link in the description, all of the links to the current giveaways will be there. And I think at the bottom of most of those giveaways, I have a link as well to all the current giveaways so that as things change, you should be able to get all of those. Patty Ann asks, do you only crochet? No, I crochet. I do knit, not as much as I crochet. I'll be honest, crochet is what I learned first. It's what I love the most. And knitting, I'm just a little bit slower at it. I still really enjoy it, but for me, the creative process is best expressed through crochet. I also do other crafts. I do diamond art. I really enjoy that. I've designed a few different diamond art projects for Leisure Arts and was able to get a few of those into a few of their new books this year, which was really exciting. And then I also do cricketing. I really enjoy using my Cricut and my Cricut Joy for all kinds of projects, whether they're related to yarn or not. I can't tell you the last time I honestly bought a greeting card because now I just make them myself. So not all the crafts honestly get into the blog. I also cook a lot. I'm a big cook. Love cooking. So, I do a lot of other crafts too. And I think most of us do. I think that's the fun of it. I think lots of creative people, we need to spread it around and try new things, right? So let's see. Julia asks, What shelving unit did you use for your yarn? You can see I've got a big one back here. It actually extends past me here to this wall and is double-sided, but essentially it's just those cubes, those cubicles you can get just about anywhere. I happened to get these, I believe, at Home Depot. They may have been the Martha Stewart brand, but I don't know if they even sell that anymore. But basically, it's just the standard cubicles. Whatever, whatever company currently has the best price, the standard white cubes. Not the IKEA ones, as much as I love IKEA. Those are a slightly different size. I didn't realize that than everybody else's. But so I just have the regular old ones you can get, anywhere in town or right online or through Home Depot. But I love them. I know a lot of people ask about dust and things getting on the yarn. And I'm down in a basement, so not, the most HEPA filtered place in the world. But I really don't have a problem. I haven't found a problem with that. The only thing I have found getting into my yarn is we once had a squirrel get into the basement, and the squirrel got into my yarn. But I haven't had any problem with dust or anything like that, to be honest. I don't know if I just use my yarn that quickly, if there's just enough people through here or not enough people through here to create the dust, but it hasn't been a problem for me. That said, I acknowledge if you don't run through yarn, if you're not using yarn every day and actually running through your stock constantly, that a closed container system might be better for you. Another option I've seen some people do if they like to have the open shelving but need a little bit more protection is to put the clear shower curtains. Run those right along the top of the shelves, and then you can just kind of pull those open. You still have the full access to all your yarn. You can see what you have. If you're a visual person like me, that's so important, right? You need to kind of see what you have to get those creative juices flowing. And so you can use those curtains to kind of protect your yarn at the same time, and then, be able to open it up and get a better view when you need them. So let's see. What is the best ply yarn for, oh, Crystal, it fades away on the phone. I have to come over here to the laptop so I can read the whole question. I apologize for that. Let's see. Crystal asks, what is the best ply yarn to use for Mosaic, and what size of hook should I use? I think that's going to totally depend on the project. I think you could do Mosaic with thread. You could do Mosaic with Bernat blanket. And, I really don't think this technique is going to be hook and yarn size dependent. Just be sure to marry the hook to the yarn, of course, starting with the one recommended on the label, or maybe one size up. If you're a little bit of a tight crocheter, it would be fine. Just whatever you normally like to use, honestly, whatever hook size you normally like to use with that yarn would be what I would recommend. You do want to create sort of a solid fabric. If I pull this back up here, you can see how it is really, it's a solid-ish fabric, but it's got good drape, and that's basically what you want to go for. You want to make sure that it's not stiff, unless you're making a basket or something and you want it stiff. If you want it stiff, you want it stiff. But generally speaking, if you don't want it stiff, just play a little bit, make a swatch. If the fabric still has that drape you want, but it's not, see-through and it creates that design, then I'd say you're on the right track. It's unfortunately not as easy as saying, always use this hook and this yarn, but that's the joy of it. Like I say, you could do Mosaic thread work, which would be phenomenal and probably require a magnifying glass for me, but it would be amazing. So you can definitely play with that with anything you like. Let's see. Oh, I tell you, Stephanie says she has a hard time keeping dog's fur off her yarn. I have a hard time keeping my own hair off my yarn. I feel like I crochet in my hair every project I make. Let's see. Yarn Nut Yarn and Crochet says, what is your favorite go-to yarn? Well, gosh, it just depends so much on what I'm making. I do have a lot of blanket patterns, like a lot. And I think probably one of my biggest go-tos for blankets, although it's a great way to explore other yarns, is honestly Red Heart with Love. That's why we keep using it for the crochet along, the Moogly crochet along every year. Tons of colors, washes and dries like a dream, stands up to the family, stands up to the pets. I have blankets made with Red Heart with Love that my kids used to build, forts and tents when they were kids. And, they still look nearly brand new. They look okay. Some of them are starting to look a little well-loved. It's, it's been a good 18 years that I've been crocheting these things. But, it really stands up. It really stands up. The colors don't fade. I don't find it very pilly or anything like that. Like I say, the blankets I have are maybe a little fuzzier than they were when they began, but overall, for years, they will look really brand new and really just get really, I think, almost softer with time, honestly. So that's it for blankets. For garments and things like that, honestly, it's all over the place. For me, one of the fun things about yarn and crochet is not just trying new techniques and stitches and projects, but trying all the new yarns. every time I think I found a new favorite, there's another favorite yet to come. So it kind of depends on the day, to be honest, on that one. So let's see. Yes, Nanette says mine has my DNA. Yes, my projects definitely. I tell you what, if you take one of my projects to a crime, I'm gonna be called in right away. So let's see. You want it to be super soft from the shelf. Yeah, I hear ya. I hear ya. It's one of those things where I think that sometimes it just depends on how you're going to use the yarn. I have some beautiful cashmere in my collection that I would never ever make a blanket out of for my kids to use. But I love it for me and I'll save it for a special project for me. So it just depends on the project. There are definitely some yarns I wouldn't use around my kids, and there are some yarns that I totally would use for me. So let's see. Just checking through for questions. How old were you when you started to crochet? Albertine asks. And did you learn it from your grandma? I wish I had. Unfortunately, neither of my grandmothers crocheted. I wanted to as a child. I loved yarn and I loved the idea of yarn crafts and crafting in general. And I had a great grandmother who did beautiful embroidery work on all the pillowcases and linens and things that my grandma still had. And so I admired those things as a child. My mom and her mother both were big sewers. My mom actually has gotten into quilting in her retirement. But there wasn't a lot of yarn crafting, although it always just really appealed to me. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anybody to teach me, and this was before YouTube, of course. So that finger crochet, where you just weave it between your fingers and make the long strips, I made probably miles upon miles of that stuff as a preteen, honestly. I was, the church my family went to, I used to help make the banners for that, to display on the wall. I remember one we just made like a rainbow out of those, strips of yarn and everything, and, bracelets and things like that. But in order to go to the next step, honestly, when I was in my early 20s, I went and picked up a pamphlet on how to crochet, one of those free little pamphlets from Joanne, Michaels. I don't remember where I was now, one of the craft stores. I picked up that free pamphlet, and probably one of the worst yarns to try and learn with. It was a boucle yarn. Do not recommend learning with a boucle yarn, and a Tunisian hook. I had no idea what I was doing. Picked up all the wrong supplies, took it home, could not make sense of that pamphlet. I think I figured out something. I don't know. I made something. I made some really weird net of yarn that I wish I'd kept because it would be hilarious to show off now. It was so weird. I don't know what I was doing. I don't know what stitches I was doing. I don't think they were official stitches. I think I was just kind of pulling yarn through loops until something solid happened. Let's just say it didn't go well. Set it aside, said, okay, this isn't working. And then shortly after my daughter was born, the one who's now 18, almost 19, trying to think how far, my brother-in-law got married and his new wife knew how to crochet. And I didn't know this until she gave us a baby blanket for our new baby. And oh my gosh, I know somebody finally who knows how to crochet or knit. I didn't care, either one. I just wanted to be able to do one of them. And although crochet oddly was the one I went for first. And so she's like, oh, sure. She sat down with me the next time we got together. 5 minutes later, I knew how to chain, I knew how to single crochet, and I was off and running. I needed somebody there in person with me to make it click. And since then, of course, YouTube then came out and everything, and I learned more there. And then once it clicked, the books and pamphlets finally made sense once I got what they were trying to say. So that's when I started teaching myself. So really, it's been about 18 and a half years now, coming up on since I've been able to crochet. Knitting, I taught myself a few years later. And I will tell you what, the way I learned how to knit, this was, I think YouTube was out, but it was still a relatively new thing. I actually went to our public library and I went to the children's section and I checked out a VHS on how to knit for children. And that slowed it down enough for me and gave me all the close-ups and all the little tricks, and boom, and then it made sense. So yeah, I actually learned how to knit from a video for kids, but it did the job. And so I always recommend, if you're having trouble with the how-to videos, maybe seek out one of the ones that's actually meant for kids. I think sometimes that does the trick. No, hey, sometimes we all need it broken down that explain like I'm 5 level. So that is how I did that. So let's see. I'm going to scroll down here. So yes. What hook size do you use with Red Heart with Love? Again, it depends on the project. If I'm making something like a basket, I'm going to go down from the recommended hook size. For the Moogly crochet along, like with this, I like using a size J. I'm a big fan of a size J. When we started the, and that's a 6mm for anybody who isn't in the US or doesn't use those numbers. When we started the Moogly crochet along, I started with an I, but a lot of the squares were coming out a little bit stiff. I just didn't like the drape overall of the blanket. So a few years ago, we bumped it up to a J. You can still go back to all the past years, and I just recommend you go ahead and make the square with whatever hook size you're using for all the other squares, because it makes it a little easier to join in the end. And for the crochet along, there's instructions on how to sort of resize the squares to get them all to the same size when it's time to join. But yeah, I really personally like using a J hook with the With Love, unless I'm doubling it or doing something like that. I find it gives it a really nice drape. And as you can see here, a relatively closed fabric that isn't tight and stiff. Still has some good lay to it. So that's what I like using for that one. So let's see. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry to hear people don't appreciate your work, Marie. That is a tougher one. Maybe some of those thread projects will open their eyes, or some of those thinner yarns. Let's see. And Annette asks, have you ever been stingy with your own crochet projects? Everything I want to make is for me. Yes, absolutely. That is hard for me. I recently, don't think it'll be a spoiler. I don't think she's probably watching. But I recently made that borderless chevron blanket, the bright chevron borderless blanket. That was it. Long name. And there's video tutorials for that one up now too. But I did finally give that one away to someone I know who just recently had a baby. And even though it's a baby blanket and I have no use for a baby blanket, it was just so pretty. It was kind of hard to send away. So yeah, that happens to me all the time. At this point, it's gotten a little easier over the past few years as things pile up, and I'm sitting here going, okay, I've made 5 baby blankets this year. I don't have 5 babies. It's time to pass these on. So it has gotten a little bit easier, but yeah, there's definitely some projects where I just kind of keep them for me. That's for sure. So let's see. Kathy said, oh, your mom tried to teach you, but you're too hard-headed. I hear you. So many things, right? If we look back into the past, we could have learned. Let's see. Let's see. It looks like I have a question here about blocking. Sorry, I just don't want to lose my voice. Okay, Jill asks, when you block a sweater or cardigan, how do you pin it out when the fabric folds over itself, like the front and the back? So basically, we've got layers on the shape. Well, I will tell you, when I get the opportunity, when I'm making a sweater or cardigan, if I can, before I do the assembly, I will block the individual pieces. It just gets all the seams, so that they're the same length, so everything matches up if they're seaming. So if you can block the individual pieces before you begin, absolutely that's the way to go. If you can't, then I would just treat it the same way you would when you buy a sweater or a top that says lay flat to dry. It's essentially the same thing. Every time you lay flat a sweater to dry, you're blocking that sweater. Excuse me, you might not be using pins, you might not be straightening it out, but you're putting it in that shape that you want it to dry in. So it's essentially the same thing. So you would go ahead and get it wet, carefully and gently wring out as much of that water as you can, and then just lay it out, basically lay it out flat to dry. Put it into the shape you want it, add a few strategic pins if you want to, but otherwise you just have to lay it out flat like that. It does take longer to dry then, of course, if you've got more layers. If you want to, when the top is completely dry, you can carefully kind of flip it over sometimes. But if you have a drying rack, perhaps like a mesh one that's really flat that you use for drying those delicate sweaters and things. Otherwise, you could use that for your crochet and knit projects too. But yeah, it's just basically, lay flat to dry. If you've done that before, you've actually blocked before. So let's see. Let's see. Do you ever do plus size patterns? Yes. All my garments, unless of course, they're baby or children items, all my adult garments, as far as I know, all include sizes up to 5X. If I missed one, I apologize. It would have been early on. But all of them should have at least small to 5X. Not all of them have extra small, and I was called out on that a while back for not being size inclusive, for not including the extra small, and they were absolutely right. That was my own bias. So I am now trying to make sure I get those extra smalls in there as well. So ideally, all of them are at least small to 5X, and the more recent ones are extra small to 5X. So yes, as I've been up to a 3X myself in life, coming in close on a 4X at times. So I get it. You want to have all the sizes, and I totally understand. I think all the sizes are always a great idea to have when it works for the item, of course. So let's see. Stephanie said you retaught yourself by watching on YouTube. That's always a great way. I still have to go to YouTube once in a while to go, especially with knit stitches. I'm like, wait a minute, how does that one go? I always have to get a little refresher myself. Let's see. Okay, I'm just kind of trying to skim through. Hi, Julia and Carrie, thank you. Heather says, I was told not to block acrylics. Is this true? I'm going to say no, it is not true. You don't have to block acrylics. You don't have to block anything if you don't want to. But these squares, oops, sorry, I keep hitting that microphone. These squares for the crochet along are all acrylic, Red Heart with Love, 100% acrylic, and I block each and every one of them. Blocking acrylic is a little different. It can be a little different. You can still just use water like you would with any other thing. Get it wet, block it out. I use a blocking board from Shenanigans that I link to along with the crochet along squares for blocking all my squares. Excuse me. But yeah, this is acrylic, 100% acrylic. I absolutely blocked this. It can be trickier to get it to stay put after you block it, in which case hitting it with a little bit of steam can be awesome. You just have to be careful with acrylic when you block it. If you use a lot of heat when you block acrylic, it can melt the yarn itself, which could be an effect you're going for. It's something to play with. Make some swatches, play with them, melt them. Go ahead and kill them. It's called killing the acrylic when you've really melted it together. Steam them just a little bit. See how they change the shape. But you could absolutely, I absolutely believe you can block acrylic. I do it all the time to great effect. So don't let that stop you at all. Let's see. And Margaret asks, what am I wearing? I'm wearing the Cosmos cardigan, which is a free pattern on mooglyblog.com that goes up to 5X. I don't remember exactly where it starts, but it goes up to 5X. So let's see. And one of my shrugs goes to a 6X. Yes, once in a while I get a request, especially from yarn companies that'll ask me to go up to a 6X. So I'll go on up to a 6X. And I think that if you can, it's a little trickier. The problem with going to, the reason honestly that most people stop at 5X is because if you go to the Craft Yarn Council site, that has the sizing standards that all crochet designers in the Western world should be using, we'll say. Whether or not they do is up to them, but they have the sizing standards, and those sizing standards only go up to a 5X. So you can kind of look at how those measurements increase for each size and extrapolate what a 6X would be, but it is a little bit of a guess. So that's, I think, why most designers stop at 5X. So let's see, Donna, yes, and steam blocking, great point. Donna Wallslagel says steam blocking can also make the yarn a little bit softer. So if you have something acrylic that needs some blocking, go ahead and steam block it. It might make it just a little bit softer as well. So let's see. Maria asks, why do you need to block your projects, and do you have to block every project? No, you absolutely do not have to block every project. There's tons of hats and things I've made, never blocked on one of them. If it's something that, I mean, if it looks awesome off the hook, you're done, right? You weave in those dones, you think this looks fantastic, cool. But if you have something kind of like that sweater that's lay flat to dry, where you know it just looks better if you lay it flat to dry versus when you hang it up, or it gets a little wonky, you know, that one shoulder always pulls, but if you lay it out all nice and flat, it's going to look better. Blocking is kind of the same thing. When you make squares like this, excuse me, it's allergy season, it really gets to me. When you make squares like this, sometimes they don't always come out perfectly square. You might have sides that bulge, you might have sides that pull in. It might just be a little wonky depending on the stitch pattern. So blocking those squares before you join them can be a great way to get them really nice and square and really set them in that shape so that then your finished project's going to look a little bit better. So really, it just totally depends on the project. Like I say, I rarely block a hat for whatever reason. They just tend to come off the hook looking real good. Scarves may or may not need to be blocked. Something like this, I absolutely did block. This lace, the New Moon wrap with the crochet lace. Something like this I absolutely would block because I want each of those stitches to sit in exactly the right place. So yeah, it just depends on the project. The lacier it is, the more likely I am to block it. The delicate is, the more likely I am to block it. If the shape turned out funky at all and I just feel like it could be a little straighter on the sides, the more likely I am to block it. But it is totally optional. And if you love the way it looks coming off the hook, then you are all set and ready to keep going. And yes, thank you, Denise. That's not a dumb question at all. I think blocking is not one of the first things you learn when you learn to knit or crochet. It's one of those things that comes later, and it is optional, and it isn't always required. And depending on what you make, you may never block anything. So that's totally fine too. So let's see. I think that's pretty much, I think we've covered most of the questions there on YouTube. So let me hop back over here to Facebook and kind of scroll through and towards the end here. So let's see. I have a question, but it's half of it. There we go. Chris says, we were talking yesterday about how many newbies make the mistake of using voucher yarn when they're first learning. I'm guessing you mean textured. I'm not sure what voucher yarn is, but yeah, textured yarn. Boucle, worst idea. Worst idea. Do not pick up a boucle yarn if you are looking to learn how to crochet or knit. You want something, and I'll go ahead and say what you do want. You want something really smooth. Boucle yarn, for those who don't know, it's the really textured. It often tends to be really wiggly. And you cannot see your individual stitches. And when you're learning, you want to be able to see your stitches. That is so important. So I think that is good. Oh, I do have another question here from Breck. How many hours on average in a day do you crochet? That's a great question. Well, it depends. Weekdays, I spend most of my daytime on the computer or doing lives or taking photographs or things like that. And then it's after dinner that I get to sit down and crochet. So whenever I get dinner cleaned up, then I will crochet pretty much until I go to bed. That's when I do my designing and the actual crochet work. And then the weekends. I'm not typically online. If you send me an email, a question, a message, if it's on Saturday or Sunday, I probably won't get to it till Monday, Tuesday if it's a Labor Day week. And that's because on the weekends, I need not just, time for my family, obviously, but also that's when I take the time to really sit and do that deep design work. And, something like even a simple sweater, it's easy enough to crochet, but the designing takes some math and figuring and measuring. And so the weekends is where I can really buckle down and do most of my crocheting. So I'd say probably on a weekday, I spend probably on average about 3 to 4 hours crocheting. And then on the weekends, it could be upwards of 12 hours a day, depending on what I need to get done. This is definitely my busy season. I'll be honest. We're coming into fall. We're coming up to Christmas. I've got some very exciting things I'm working on with a variety of other people. There will, of course, still be more free patterns on Moogly. There's going to be more free patterns by me on Your Inspirations. But I'm also working on some other projects. There's going to be some fun bundles and things coming up for the holidays. So lots and lots of designing to do. And Penny pointed out that Marley block would make a great basket, and I have to agree. I think it would be really phenomenal. One person in the Moogly Crochet Along group actually has already turned it into a table runner by just working the block basically over and over again, just starting it again from where it picked up, and worked in a long row, and it looked really fantastic. And if you're watching, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, but it was really, really, really pretty, and looked really lovely. Boucle, yes, Chris, you didn't mean boucle. I thought so. But I was like, I don't know what voucher yarn is, but if they're giving out vouchers for yarn, do share that information for sure. So let's see. I think that's all the questions. I think those are all the questions on YouTube. I hope I got them all. I apologize if I missed them. Just want to make sure. Hi. Oh, Northern Ireland. Thanks for tuning in. Hop back to YouTube. Let's see. Yes. And Jill says, yes, blocking helps bring out any lace or motifs. Also, triangle shawls look even more beautiful when blocked. Absolutely. I agree. Blocking is one of those things where it depends on the project, but when it works and does amazing thing, it's amazing. I really recommend blocking if you want to give it a try and see it do something. The Fortune's Shawlette, which is a free pattern on Moogly, and there's YouTube tutorials as well, and PDFs, paid PDFs if you prefer it like that. But with that one, that's one of those ones where as you're crocheting, it just kind of looks all right. It looks fine, but then when you block it, it It really opens up that lace and transforms the piece. So some things, some things, the blocking will make a big difference. Do I use any yarn from the Dollar Tree? I have not. I don't know if we have, I'm sure we probably have Dollar Trees around here, but I'm definitely at a shop online and curbside pickup point in my life right now. So no, I have not seen the yarn from Dollar Tree. I apologize. Let's see. Yeah, Kathy, yeah, I hear you. When it hits 2 a.m., that happened to me last night. I looked up and it was midnight and I said, okay, time to stop crocheting, time to go to bed. Where do you get the mosaic pattern? Sunset Creations by Diana Griffiths asks. This is the mosaic block by Marley Bird. You can go to the link in the YouTube description right now, or just go to mooglyblog.com. If you're watching this live, it'll be the top post on mooglyblog.com right now, and there is a link there out to that block. So you can check that out there. That's going to be easier than me trying to read to you the URL. So let's see. Yes, and Marie, curbside and online. I hear you. I love it right now. I am not minding the curbside pickup thing at all. For groceries, for everything. I love it so much. So it's been a little over an hour, so I think I've probably talked all your ears off. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any last minute questions here. So, Donna says, Crochet Crowd did a great video on steam blocking that won her over. So definitely check that out if that's something you're more interested in and you enjoy it. Mikey's a fun guy. He's, it's been fun getting to know him. Anybody who's, if you've been following my journey for a few years, you know, I've worked with a variety of yarn companies over the years, and when Yarn Inspirations acquired Red Heart a year or so ago here, oh gosh, more than that now, I finally got a chance to work with Mikey for the first time. So he's been a lot of fun to get to know for sure. It's just too bad it's all virtual at this point, right? Hopefully all those fun things will come back and we'll be able to do some more actual live in-person events soon. But in the meantime, again, go to the link in the description. You'll find links to everything I've talked about here today, all those giveaways going on, all the most recent patterns, all those 150 plus free Caron cakes patterns. So I saw somebody was looking for skinny cakes patterns. I don't have any patterns for skinny cakes myself, but go to that link. You'll probably find some there. So many. And, you know, and yeah, check out my tutorials, check out Mikey's tutorials, Marley's tutorials, whatever works for you is awesome. We've all covered some of these topics, and we'll all be teaching some of these awesome classes through Michael's as well. So if you go to the link in the description, I've linked out to those so you can get signed up for mine, Marley's, Mikey's, whoever floats your boat, and all the other cool things. They're doing so many neat crafts there. We were talking a little bit earlier today about, you know, we all do different crafts. They've got beading, they've got paper crafting, so many fun things. Crafts I've never even thought of. Resin pouring, which looks like, okay, I'm trying not to add more crafts right now, but resin looks really interesting. And I love that, the paint pouring thing. Too many crafts, love them all. But anyway, so that's what's happening on Moogly. I hope I've answered your questions. Thank you so much. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, and there's one great tip here I'll pick up. Denise had a great tip. If you have trouble watching tutorials by me, Mikey, whoever, if it's going too fast, and this is something I like to recommend too, go ahead and use that little gear icon to slow it down. Everybody likes things at their own speed, and sometimes it can feel like you're going really slow, but somebody might need it a little slower, or they might need it a little faster. I'll be honest, some tutorials I watch on double speed, so don't be afraid to change the speed of the tutorial. That is a great tip. You can speed, you can, you know, slow it down, you can rewind, so you can definitely do that with anybody's videos, however it works for you. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I think I'm going to go ahead and go. It is about lunchtime here. It probably is for you too. So thanks for tuning in, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow at the Michael's class if you want to learn how to add some icing to your projects via surface crochet. Hopefully I'll see you there. So see you all soon. Have a great day. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Stay crafty, and I'll see you all soon. Bye, everybody.